All right, Shalom. You reached the He Pray channel. My name is Isaac Mawath. But first and foremost, I want to say, call Halayim Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Harakach Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to you Israelites scattered throughout the four corners of the earth due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like many ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach. Allow this to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. Now this video is inspired by my so-called interactions with individuals over the past few days on Instagram, dealing with the Gypsy King and, Chud the Builder, and how Esau is trying to paint this narrative like Jake is the problem. But in all actuality, Esau's the problem, man. He's that vile person. And then when you point out all the atrocities that he has committed, like, for example, in this past 2 decades, he killed 2.3 million people, man. But he wants to point the finger at Jake, griping about gun violence, when he's the one that manufactures the guns and ships the guns into Jake's neighborhoods. He complains about Jake on drugs, which they brought it out that UCLA is the one that fabricated crack cocaine. So he's the one that is causing all these problems, but blaming Jacob, man. And that also adds on to that perpetual hatred and being the accuser, trying to convince Yahweh, which Yahweh means he exists, proving that the Bible is no fairy tale and God is real, to do away with Jacob, man. And little does he know that even if Esau, the progenitor of you so-called white people, which you started calling yourself white in 1681 in Virginia due to the Bacon rebellions, even if you didn't sell your birthright to Jacob, our forefather, when you read in the chapter, it says that he was going to be rejected anyway, man. It says that Yahweh hated Esau. And really, Esau is Cain coming back. And his reincarnation on earth, he's living out his mark, which is biblical leprosy, where you don't have any pigmentation and, you have that yellow thin hair, which with Newspeak, they classify themselves as having blonde hair, to continue to try to hide their identity, man. And also, this shows you how powerful the Bible is, man, and how he went to great efforts to create these satanic religions like Christianity, like Catholicism, like Islam. Well, we created Islam, but these false religions to cause great confusion, man. And when the Most High set up the prophets, which personally I don't identify myself as a prophet, I identify myself as a seer. But when you go into the scriptures, they were called seers before they were called prophets. Despite us telling him the truth, he's not listening, man. He's still harping on, oh, Jake, you niggas are chipping out. You niggas is doing this. You niggas is doing that, which that's all through the spirit, man. The Most High put a spiritual wall up. And he's going to be like that all the way into the kingdom. As you read in Revelation, they're not going to repent. And that's good, man, because you need a stiff-necked slave. Because if the slave was obedient, where will be the fun in that? You're not going to beat an obedient slave. You're going to beat a stiff-necked slave. And indeed, he's going to be a slave for 1,000 years and then exterminated, man, as he should be. And we don't know the extent of all the things that he's done, but we know the judgment that Yahweh prescribed onto him, man. So we know the judgment is righteous. For America to be wiped off the face of the earth, you so-called white people going into 1,000 years of slavery, along with you heathen nations. And after that 1,000 years is fulfilled, you heathen nations are going to get your lands back and pay tribute. But you Edomite men are going to be gathered up and done away with, man. So this is your last hoorah as we are in the time of the Gentiles. And this is going to happen anytime they make a microchip implant mandatory worldwide. So we're at the countdown, man. So going to Copilot, it references Psalms chapter 58, verse 4. It says their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the death adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Right? So let's go to Lashon Kodash for key terms. I'm going to say it the best of my ability. Nakash, serpent, whisperer, enchanter. Ka, and Slakia. I can't really see those characters. But it says charmer, spellbinder. And alam, death, mute, refusing to hear. So, they refuse to hear our complaints. They're refusing to hear us saying that they done us wrong. And really, they don't care because of that perpetual hatred that is embedded in their spirit. They're never gonna apologize. In their mind, they did nothing wrong, man. Breakdown, it says a deaf adder is a snake that refuses correction. Even when a skilled charmer uses the right tones, spiritually, this represents Esau. Esau is that deaf adder. So no matter how much you tell these damn devils all the shit that they do, they're still going to be deaf in the ears and overlook those things and point out the minuscule things that you do. And the minuscule things that Jake does is only really targeted against themselves as far as gun violence, drugs, because Esau, he still has I'll say, how would I say it? The protection that the Most High put on him, as far as if you, let me see, I'll just get it. I believe it's Genesis either 3 or 4. I think it's 4. Right. So with this this mark that he set upon him, has him standing out among all the dark nations, man. But this is Genesis chapter 4, verse 15. It says, and Yahweh said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And that's what you have right now in this society, because the same spirits that descended from Cain are the same spirits that are descended from Esau, the Edomites. And whoever kills a so-called white person, they're going to bury you under the jail, man. They're going to send what they call the Calvary. It says, and Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, which that mark could be found in Leviticus, the 13th and the 14th chapter, which is biblical leprosy, where they don't have any pigmentation, man. Their blood shows forth through their skin. That's why when Esau was born, he came out red. He was in distress because, before he was even born, he was getting his ass whooped, man. That's why Jacob was holding his heel, trying to pull that motherfucker back in to whoop his ass some more. So that was the mark that was set upon Cain, that pigmentless, no melanin. That's why they have a hard time living on this planet, man. And then you got these assholes trying to prop them up as if there's some sort of God. How can a God not be suitable to even live on this planet, man? It says, least any finding him should kill him. And this took place when he was reincarnated on earth through Esau. And when you go into albinoism, you know that two dark-skinned people could produce a so-called white baby. So Going back to Copilot, it says spiritually this represents Esau, corrupt rulers and treacherous men who cannot be reasoned with, no matter how much truth is presented. Yeah, and that's why they want to ban the Bible, because it's too much truth. And they don't believe that it is the truth. They think that their truth is the truth. You know, when you tell them that so-called black people ruled Europe, you know, they get combative. You know, you niggas ain't ruled Europe. You're a bunch of well, who the fuck kicked you out of Europe? It wasn't no other white people that kicked you out of Europe for being witches and warlocks. Because all you so-called white people are witches and warlocks. But when you say things like that to them, once again, it's the death adder, man. AI commentary, the metaphor exposes a psychological truth. Some people are not ignorant, they are willfully unreachable. They choose deafness because righteousness threatens their power. You know, and there's no righteousness in them, man. It says his spirit is not upright. Which, you know, they want you to believe that they're pure. They're the good guys. You know, all while they bomb children and molest children and have child SA rings. They brag about how you're eating the missing people. You know, they make movies in Hollywood, how they have games in which, you know, they hunt you down for sport. You know, they got these Edomites that will go into your church and so-called pray with you, then, you know, shoot the church up. You know, they got Edomites that will go into your grocery store and hunt everybody that's shopping for groceries down, killing them. You know, you got Edomites that allegedly would break the window out of a casino hotel and injure 867 people and kill 60 of them, man. And they'll do it to their own people, but when you bring out these accusations against them, they always talk about Jake, man. Oh, Jake chimping out. You know, showing you that this motherfucker's the devil, man. The deceiver. Right? That's why you can't trust his ass, man. You got to juxtapose or measure him against the plumb line, or a individual, I should say. You know, you need to try him by the Spirit, man. You need to try his spirit by the Spirit, which the Spirit is the scriptures, to see if he's an actual Edomite, man. Because you even have chocolate covered Edomites, man. You know, mind you, the planet is lighting up in their skin tone because of grape. Because all these people were dark nations, man. You know, but Esau going around and planting his seed through pillaging, he lightened everybody up, man. And it was a quest to try to get his pigmentation back. But once again, that's the mark that was given to Cain that is being fulfilled in Esau. This is Sirach chapter 12, verse 10. It says, never trust thy enemy, for like as arm rusteth, so is his wickedness. You know, and if you know the nature of arm, Well, let's get it. Let's see. So it says iron continues to rust even when cleaned because the rusting process is an electrochemical reaction that requires both water and oxygen to function. Once rust begins to form, it creates a site that drives the reaction forward into the surrounding unoxidized metal. The presence of moisture, whether from rain, humidity, or immersion, is a fundamental requirement for the rusting process. Even a small amount of moisture in the air can start the process, especially if salts or acids are present to speed things up. The rusting process is self perpetuating, meaning that once a spot of iron oxide is present, it will grow larger unless the underlying chemical reaction is interrupted. This is why rust is so difficult to stop, as it is a self perpetuating electrochemical process that progressively consumes the iron or steel it is on, right? And that's his wickedness, man. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Yeah, you can't trust these people, man. Because one minute they'll act like they're your friend, and the next minute you're gonna find yourself in their trunk or in their apartment. And they're drilling holes in your brain, putting chemicals in it to try to make you a zombie. And when that fails, they're just gonna chop you up and put you in their Tupperware. It says, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his wickedness, which is his rust, have not been altogether wiped away. So no matter what you do, he's always going to be wicked, man. He's always going to be the wicked. That's what he was created to be. Says, set him not by thee, least when he have overthrown thee, and that's what he did to you Moors in Europe. He overthrew you, and really it was divine destiny, because the Most High sent the Black Plague because it was time for the serpent to be loosed a little season, man. And when he came back into power, that was the rebirth, which was the Renaissance, which they don't go into this history. They just rely on the history that they teach in their public education system, which is all based upon white supremacy, so-called. And they don't expect you to do your own research. They don't expect you to read a book. So he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And that's, something that Haman was trying to do too, man. He wanted to destroy Israel, man. It says, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? And this dude is a bestial man. Let me see if I can get that in the etymology. Bestial, late 14th century, belonging to a beast, having the qualities of a beast, relating to animals, beast-like, stupid, foolish, brutal. And you see his brutality. Even recently, when they first attacked Iran, they attacked the school, man, with a girls' school with children, and then they try to make excuses for it. But they want to criticize Jacob, man. Oh, Jacob's chipping out. Then you got these heathens trying to hop on the narrative, man. Hop on the bandwagon. Verse 14, so one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? Right, who's going to pity that guy, man? Going back to Copilot, Lashuan Kadash, Racham, pity, compassion. Nakash, serpent. Breakdown, if you play with serpents, which is these Edomites, the so-called white man, these devils, expect treachery. So let's go to that word treachery real quick. And I got firsthand experience on these damn devils just by growing up around them, man. And then people well, let me stop. Because, I told y'all I was going to stop. This is a 12th century treachery, treasonable or perfidious conduct, duplicity, trickery, violation of faith and confidence. So they violate your faith and confidence in them, man. Deceit, cheating, trickery, to cheat, deceive. And that's why we call him the devil, man. He's the only group of people on the planet that they refer to as the devil, man. And yet you people, put him on a pedestal as if he's God. No, he's the devil the Bible speaks of, man. It says, going back to Copilot, it says, Israel tried to charm the nations, seeking alliances, validation, acceptance, yet the nations bite every time. Going back to Jeremiah, the 12th chapter, the birds around hated the speckled bird. AI commentary, this verse exposes the futility of expecting mercy from those designed to betray. And that's right, they are designed to betray, man. Because of that perpetual hatred, man. That opposition that the Most High set up, man. That antagonist spirit, man. Which is a prayer for protection against the wicked. Psalms chapter 140, verse 1, to the chief musician, a psalm of David, or Dawadah. Deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. And this is the so-called white man he's talking about, man. This is Esau. the evil man, the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their mind, which your mind is your heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. And they, even here in America, haven't been at peace for no more than 25 years, man. Other than that, they've been at war, man, and stealing people's resources and hoarding their resources. And none of those resources are benefiting any of you people here in America, man. And then they complain about these nations trying to rise up against them after they've been oppressing them, man, and stealing their means of survival. It says they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Salah. Keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have purpose to overthrow my goings. Because ultimately they want to exterminate you Israelites, man. It goes way beyond trying to put you back into slavery. They want to exterminate you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous. That's why they have incineraries in these black sites, these FEMA camps. That's why they have gas cells in these FEMA camps. Going back to co-pilot in the Lashawan Kodash, Lashawan, tongue, speech, language, Ra'ash, venom, poison, gall. Breakdown, the wicked operate through speech warfare. And, that's something that you could see in real-time display with Donald J. Trump, man, who was Nero coming back. Now, just don't take anybody's word for it. Go do your research. Go look into the history. Go look at the characteristics of Nero and how he mirrors Donald J. Trump. It says lies, slander, accusations, propaganda. And they have the ability to do that because Satan is the prince of the power of the air. They have control of the airwaves to push their propaganda, to push their accusations, to push their slander, to push their lies. It says their words are venom crafted to destroy Jacob's reputation and spirit. And they've been destroying the reputation of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous to the whole world. So when they get ready to kill you and exterminate you, or at least try, the world will look at it as it's a good thing that you're getting rid of these niggas. AI commentary, this is the modern media cycle. Character assassination is the new venom. Going to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let me see where it says 32. It says, this is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 32. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom. And we know what was going on in Sodom. And of the fields of Gomorrah, their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons. And, wine also goes into ideologies, philosophies, etc. And the cruel venom of apes. Right? So going back to co-pilot Lashawan Tahar, or Kodasha says, I can't see the characters, but it says tenon, dragon, serpent, sea monster, Chama, rage, venom, heat. Says to break down the philosophies, laws, and culture of the wicked are poison. Yeah, they are poison to Jacob, man, because they're contrary to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shabbat Hashem HaKodash, and how he wants you to live, man, how he wants you to conduct yourself on earth. And that's why you're in the predicament that you're in, man, experiencing the penalty of breaking the contract, breaking the covenant. You know, he said these curses will be placed upon you. And Esau knows that, man. It's even in the history in Judith, the 5th chapter. You know, and he played on that. It says their systems produce death, not life. AI commentary, this is why Jacob suffers. We live under a system engineered to be toxic to us. And that's why we got to pray to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua to deliver us and get us the F up out of here, man. And to destroy our enemies. This is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes are yet filled for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. Yeah, and our people try to cling on to a nation that cannot save them, man. Instead of looking on to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. Shayah, to look, gaze, wait in expectation. Shawah, vain, empty, worthless. Breakdown. Jacob cries out, but no nation listens. No one cares about our plight, our oppression, our suffering. We wait for help that never comes. Right? None of these nations tried to help us, man. None of these nations tried to deliver us from the hands of these damn devils, man. They're all complacent, therefore they're all going into slavery, man. Whether they believe it, whether they like it don't really matter, man. They're all going into slavery when the Messiah returns and see his people in the condition that they're in. AI commentary, this is the deafness of the world. Everyone hears our screams, but no one listens. You know? And they knew, because Putin even mentioned it, they knew what was going on over here during chattel slavery, man. Nobody did nothing. Because they even knew what was going on with Ishmael when he was running his slave trade, man. Which, you know, chattel slavery is just an extension of what Ishmael was doing, the so-called Arabs. This is Isaiah chapter 59, verse 4. It says, none calleth for justice, nor any pleadeth for truth. They trust in vanity and speak lies. They conceive mischief and bring forth iniquity. They hatch cockatrice eggs and weave the spider's web, you know, to cause you to be trapped. He that eateth of their eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh out into a viper. Going back to Copilot, the word for judgment, mashapat, justice, judgment, tazapah, adder, viper. Breakdown, it says the wicked create systems that birth serpents, laws, policies, institutions that harm Jake. Or it says Jacob. It says justice is absent because the system is designed to be death. And that's why, we're being crushed by this system, man. That's why, we're heavily represented in the prison system. AI commentary, this is structural wickedness. The serpent nature is embedded in the institutions themselves. See, this is Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. A psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult. So you heathen nations are the Heavenly Father's enemies, man. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, which the Heavenly Father's people are so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous. That's why they're the most religious out of all nations on the planet Earth, man. Every time before they even give a speech, they thank the Most High. It says, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yasharahla may be no more in remembrance. And that's exactly what they have done, man. Going back to Copilot, can't see those characters. It says enemy, adversary, karat, cut off, destroy, eliminate. That's what they want to do. They want to eliminate you. Even with the minuscule things that you do to each other, man, they'll overlook the macro level of destruction and wickedness they do, and just focus on, the things that Jake does. As it says in, I believe, Wisdom of Solomon, because he is not for our turn, which we're in the time of the Gentiles, man. We're in the time of these heathen nations to rule, which their rule is coming to an end because this economy is crashing. Gas prices are sky high. All they got to do is make a microchip implant mandatory, and that's when the end is gonna happen, man. That's when the nuclear missiles are gonna be shot. That's when Yahweh Shah is gonna crack those clouds, and that's gonna be it for this damn devil, man. It says, break down, the nations are not deaf by accident. They are united in ignoring Jacob's suffering. And that's why you niggas ain't never gonna get no reparations, man. That's why you're never gonna have laws passed to, say that if you do this to us, it's a hate crime like you have with the Asians and the fake Jews. It says their goal is to erase Yasha'Allah's identity and voice. And look what they doing with you Latinos, man. And then they divide and conquer. They want to divide us, knowing that we are all related, dealing with the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. They want to pit us against each other, man. AI commentary, the world hears us, but they pretend not to. Silence is a weapon. So summary, the deaf adder spirit. A deaf adder represents willful refusal to hear truth, treacherous nature, striking without warning, cold indifference to Jacob's pain, a system built on venom, lies, and slander, a world that hears our cries but chooses silence. Serpent spirit is not ignorance, it is calculated rebellion against righteousness. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom.